What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Friday preview edition of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. Joined as always by Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino, and we are brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. And right now, 'tis the season to save on groceries and all your other holiday gifts. Christmas bonus is underway at Tops. Shop and save $10 at all your other favorite stores and restaurants. With over 25 gift cards to choose from, there's something for everyone on your list. And don't forget to treat yourself to some extra savings too. Save on great gifts like toys and games from GameStop or Toys R Us at Macy's, things for your home from Lowe's, that new big screen TV you want from Best Buy, and so much more just by shopping at Tops. Be Santa's biggest little helper with Christmas bonus from Tops. Ryan, I want to start with a question. How do you feel like fans are approaching this game? Because on the one hand, you want to wash the taste of last week out of your mouth, especially on the defensive side of the ball this week with a huge matchup against the Detroit Lions, 12-1, as good as anybody in the league. But on the other hand, a lot of people are talking about this as a potential Super Bowl matchup. So if the Bills lose this game, are you heartbroken? Because we all know how hard it is to beat the same team twice in one season. Or do you feel like there's so much that needs to be remedied specifically on defense from last week to make a statement against the Detroit Lions before three ho-hum games heading into the playoffs is something the Bills should be looking to do here this week?
I mean, they should obviously be looking to do that, but being able to do that's going to be a whole different task, a whole different matter. This Lions team is as good as any team in this league, truly in an elite class in this league, the way that they play on both sides of the ball. There are some weaknesses. There are some areas where maybe the Bills will be able to attack on Sunday. But, you know, if they lose this game, would I be heartbroken, or should Bills fans be heartbroken? No, because going into the playoffs, they're going to be the 2 seed or the 3 seed. And I do like the final stretch here for the Bills to claim that number 2 seed over the Steelers. If they lose this, obviously you shut the door, I would think, on the 1 seed or any discussion of it. But overall, it's, if they lose this game, it's not the end of the world. You hope that you can run into them again in the most meaningful game of the season, the Super Bowl. But you also want to see them bounce back after the way that they played, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
And I think Beth here, who gets the shout out from David, one of our insiders, thank you so much for subscribing here on YouTube. Hit that like button as well. She makes a great point. The Bills need to be able to beat great teams. And to me, this is a test against what I would consider as one of the great teams. Now, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home, going on the road against the Detroit Lions, but that's a little bit different because to me, the Chiefs fall into that category of, a glorified divisional opponent. They've played each other so much over the last couple of years. You know them so well because you've prepared to play them so many times, almost 2 times a year for the past 4, that even though it was a huge win, a critical win, a win against a great team in its own right, the Chiefs only have 1 loss as well. This one will be a little bit different because Detroit, nobody's had an answer for them. They're on an 11-game winning streak. They lost on some fluke game against the Buccaneers in week 2. Ever since then, they've found a way to win every single week. And they provide the Bills with challenges that they have not been able to do well against all season long. So, number one, they're able to run the ball and they're able to really attack with their backs in the run and the pass game like few other teams can in the league. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and they're going up against a defensive line that hasn't been very good over the last couple of weeks. And there seems to be a rallying cry within that group this week to step up and have a big performance. So I think answering those questions and maybe giving yourselves as a defense a little bit of a confidence booster would be a huge notch to have on your belt going out of this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people look at the NFC and they see the Lions, the Eagles, potentially the Packers as these teams that can represent the conference in the Super Bowl. And if you can go into Detroit, which you and I know is a very, very hostile environment, the fans are loud. A few years ago, we were there for a great game on Thanksgiving, and the atmosphere is unbelievable. If you can go on the road and win a game against a team like that, it certainly has to boost up your confidence with the playoffs on the horizon, knowing that you do end the season against non-playoff teams. And this is the last true test that you get in the regular season.
Thank you so much for making us a part of your weekend. Whenever you're watching live or on the replay, we really appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube here with us on Friday night, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate it. And I think the only place to start defensively for the Bills, because they're coming off of a game where the offense was about as good as you could be on the road in LA, gave the Bills countless chances to win. I want to get into special teams too. Don't let us get out of here without talking about that. But defensively, you look at this group up front, and Dewan Smoot, he was working off to the side today after practice, going through a post-practice workout with Marcus West and maybe the assistant defensive line coach as well. That's good news that it's at least possible that he can return, especially against this run game. If he's available, I think you activate him and move it in a different direction. But it was interesting. We were talking to Terrell Bernard after practice today, and he said something that, there's been so much heat on Ed Oliver. I talked to Daquan Jones for a story I'm writing on Ed for the morning, and he also talked about Ed. But Terrell Bernard said as much of an issue as maybe it seems like it's on Oliver, it's also on the linebackers. He put it a lot on himself. He said, listen, when I don't read the play right, if I don't get into the gap, Ed Oliver's left to deal with 700 pounds of offensive linemen by himself. And we know from the outside looking in, that's an undersized player that needs to be able to get off at the point of attack to be disruptive. We talked about the pressures last season. If there's any bit of a drop off at the second level, that's going to impact Ed Oliver too. But however that works in marriage, you have to be able to get after Jared Goff. He's going to be under center. They're going to run play action. They're going to do almost exactly the kind of stuff that Matthew Stafford and the Rams did last week. You have to win at the point of attack to have a chance in this game.
Yeah, and Goff is having a great season in terms of the completion percentage. He makes a lot of accurate throws, but there always seems to be a few passes per game that are kind of up for grabs or potential balls that can get intercepted. And the Bills do need that in this game. They need to win the turnover battle. They need that to go their way, where the Rams did such a great job of, protecting the ball in offense, not turning it over last week, winning the turnover battle on special teams with the block punt. That the Bills really never had that chance to close the gap, where if they can do this against the Lions, which we've seen a few weeks ago, Goff had a 5-interception game, and to their credit, they came back and won that matchup. He's not, without some errors, without some mistakes. He doesn't have the elite arm of a guy like Stafford or Josh Allen, who he'll be going against. So they need that to take place. But you're right. The linebackers, the D-line, they complement one another, and they have to work together in unison. Because as you said, if you don't read the gaps right as the linebacker, that puts Ed Oliver in a bad spot. But if these D linemen get pushed back off the ball like they have as well, that makes it hard for the linebackers to come and make plays. So, the front four, the linebackers, they all need to be much better than they were 1 week ago.
They're pissed off, this Bills defense.
Yeah.
Like everybody has said it. And they know what's being said outside of the building. Daquan Jones said that today. And Josh asking if I've had a chance to talk to Ed Oliver. I did. I talked to him on Wednesday, talked to Daquan Jones about him today. I'm writing about that tomorrow. You can read that at NewYorkUpstate.com and Syracuse.com in the morning. But I think they know what's kind of being said about that. I was listening to Football 301 podcast with Nate Tice and Charles Robinson. They do a really good job. Highly recommend their show. And Charles was going into some of the advanced metrics. He went back over the last 4 weeks and looked at the Bills defense, and they rank in the bottom 5 of the NFL in a bunch of different statistics defensively. Go check that out to get the details on that. But they've been playing poorly. And I think that how good Josh Allen is, how consistent this offense is, scoring 30 points a game, they've relied on turnovers, right? They're taking the ball away, second best rate in the NFL through 14 games. But no turnovers last week on the road against the Rams. And we saw how they were able to sustain drives over the course of that game. This week, sure, you want to get the turnovers going. Rasul Douglas is not playing. Maybe an opportunity for Kyer Elam. We'll get into that in a moment as well. But to be able to flip the script, I think you're going to need a bunch of really proud dudes, especially in that defensive line room, to come out and punch back. Because this offensive line for the Detroit Lions, led by kneecap-biting Dan Campbell, is going to punch you in the mouth at home at Ford Field on Sunday.
Yeah, they're a physical unit, as physical as you can find in this league. So this is a statement game for this defense. Coming off of a bad loss, a performance where you were pushed around, you had no answers for the pass game. Both of the backs last week did very well for the Rams. You're going against a great 1-2 punch in Detroit on the ground as well. This can silence a lot of doubters. On the offense side of the ball, yeah, you need Josh Allen in the offense to keep humming along. You need them to be able to put up another potential 30-point effort to play with the team of the Lions caliber. But if this defense performs the way they did 1 week ago and they no-show again, it's going to be the second consecutive loss in a row for the Bills. And there's going to be a lot of people talking about whether or not they're going to be built to win when it really matters in January and February.
David, one of our insiders, says, holding a fake gun to Ryan or Matt's ankle. I won't fire if they are truthful. The D is pissed. Great. Do you really think their play will make a difference this weekend? And I would say yes. I think one of the things that Sean McDermott does a really good job of is getting guys to refocus after a bad game, right? Or bad circumstances. One of the things that we can kind of get into really quickly here is the Bills didn't even have a fully padded practice this week. Yeah. Yesterday got canceled because of all the snow that came in through Orchard Park. McDermott said today it wasn't safe for guys to get to the facility. They were hoping things were going to open up later in the day, but they did virtual meetings all day. They never were able to practice. So that's another factor in this game. So I asked Sean about it. I'm like, are you concerned at all that you didn't have a chance to put the pads on when you're getting ready for one of the most physical offenses in the league? And he's like, no, I trust my guys. I trust that they're going to put the time in, the work in, no matter what it takes to get the job done on Sunday. And there's a bright side to this. I can't remember who it was years ago. Might have been the Patriots. Might have been those Eagles teams with the McNabb. I can't remember, but I remember late in the season, one really great coach talked about like taking the pedal off the gas when it comes to the physical toll during the week on a team as they're trying to get ready and amped up for a big game on Sunday against a physical opponent. So maybe the rest and the way that their bodies were kind of managed this week will be helpful at Ford Field on Sunday.
It's going to be interesting to see, if the Bills do come out and they play well on both sides of the ball and they stun the Lions and win this game, maybe them being fresh for the matchup, not having to go through the practice week and will benefit them. But, to give my answer to David's question, I hope I'm proven wrong. But no, I don't really have the faith that this defense can be a difference this week. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope I'm eating crow on Sunday afternoon or evening.
Have you ever eaten crow before?
I have not. But
have you ever even like just taken a bite at the supermarket or something?
No, I think that's frowned upon, just eating food in the supermarket that's out there first of all. But
well, dude, do you have a Wegmans and Olean? They got people that walk around with trays of stuff all the time.
No, never
you
crow.
Never saw a tray full of crow?
No. We have a Tops. So love Tops.
Tops.
Look at you. But no, it's just, I look at the D-line. They're right now, they don't have a guy that can take over a game consistently. You watch a lot of these other teams that have the Bosas, the Watts of the world, and I get it. They're unicorns. They're unique. They don't. Every team would love to have one, but you don't. Russo's had his moments. Von Miller has flashes, but there's no one there that can take over a game. Bernard is as good as it comes at linebacker, but I don't know if one player at the linebacker position can do enough to take over a game. We've seen him have moments of brilliance against the Chiefs this year with the interception, with the with the sack on Mahomes in that game. So he can definitely, shift momentum. And then on the back end, I know Rasul Douglas is having his worst season as a Bill and coming off of what would have been his worst game as a member of the Bills, and he's not available. So there's that uncertainty too, where there's a lot of good pass catching options on this Lions team. And you really need Jamarcus Ingram or Kyer Elam to step up in a big time way. And, results to be determined on that, but it's asking a lot, in my opinion.
There's nobody would give away the plan. Sean McDermott said he has an idea of who's going to start for Douglas. Didn't want to commit to that. We asked Jamarcus Ingram about it, Kyer Elam after practice. Neither of them really gave too much. They're both just preparing like they're going to be the starter. So that given the opportunity, they'll be ready to contribute. The more this week is going along, I do think it'll end up being Kyer Elam that starts the game. And I think Ingram kind of fits pretty well in that depth role. Like you can have him come in and play at the boundary. You can have him play in the slot for Taron Johnson if you want to keep Cam Lewis there, or flip him, have Cam Lewis come to the slot if Taron Johnson were to get injured, and then Ingram can go to that safety role, which he played so well earlier this season. And I also think the motivation has been laid out for Kaiir Elam at this point. And, he said one of the things that stood out to me when we talked to him today was he would have handled this completely different in his rookie year or second season. Like the disappointment of not playing, he didn't handle that the best way. I mean, this was put the playbook on the plane, right? First round draft pick a couple years ago. And now dealing with the fact that it's just never materialized into an everyday role. And Christian Benford talking about him today was really cool. I mean, if you have somebody in your life that looks to lift you up like Christian Benford does, some of these guys in the room, I mean, that to me, and this is not to downplay Rousseau, Bernard, Khalil Shakir, any of the guys that are kind of in the mix for those extension candidates. But Benford is such a sneaky leader on this team. Yeah. And I asked him about what it's been like this year, being the guy that a lot of the young guys come to. And he's like, kind of looked at me funny. He's like, I've always been that. I've been that since my beginning of my career here. And that's not to say that Trey White and other vets like Micah and Jordan weren't pouring into him, but immediately he was turning and pouring in to anybody else that was interested. He had a starting job his first season in Buffalo, and he's working every single day after practice with Kaiir Elam for 30, 40, 50 minutes. Douglas did it before the injury as well, but this week also. And I think that's a big piece going into this game and the confidence that he's trying to pour in to Elam. He's a big time underrated leader on this team.
Yeah, we've always talked about the chip on the shoulder, but he's also a big-time leader for this roster, for the team, and they have a unique relationship. One guy was taken in the first round, one guy was taken on day 3, and it was the day 3 player that won the job. Obviously, it was a better fit in terms of the skill set, what he did in college at Villanova versus Elam and his college skill set. But it's like going way back when, Benford is like the Kyle Williams to Elam, who was the John McCargo, the high draft pick that it just hasn't happened yet. And this is Elam's chance to prove he's not the McCargo. He can be a starter in this league. He can step up when the Bills need him. So it's a pivotal game for Kaiir Elam. You know that Benford's going to be rooting for this guy. They came into the league together. They came to the Bills together. It's just been a tale of two careers right now, but this is a chance for Elam to really, boost his stock for Buffalo or potentially somewhere else because, you and I have talked about it. Who knows if this relationship continues beyond this season?
Thank you so much for making us a part of your Friday evening. Maybe you just got out of work. Maybe you're just going into work for the late night shift, whatever it may be. We appreciate you hanging out with us. If you're listening on all the audio platforms, hey, leave us a review, a rating that really helps on any of the platforms that you're watching. We really appreciate it. And listen, I talked about it a couple days ago, Ryan. There's no better time to become a Shout Buffalo Bills insider than right this absolute second. Text 716-528-6727. That's 716-528-6727. You'll get a 2-week free trial. So you're just trying it out to see what the buzz is all about here. And then in 25 minutes, you're going to get a link to a private insider Zoom session. We're just hanging out for happy hour for an hour with all the insiders that want to come hang out. It is an awesome part of our coverage these days, and we really appreciate all of our insiders. We're going to hang out with them tonight. The Shout text line, it's brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litra, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give them a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. All right, Ryan, before we shift gears to the offense, what are you most scared of in this game? I want to talk about that offensively from the Lions, but then also let's make this game day roster for the Bills. Who do you think is going to be elevated tomorrow? Who do you think is going to be in the mix on this defensive line? Like, how do you think this plays out for this specific matchup?
I would like to see Ilianku elevated.
In place of who?
That's what I was going to say. They have a lot of bodies at defensive tackle. That's the problem right now. They already made last week Jordan Phillips inactive, and it's really tough for me to find a spot for him. So while I'm hopeful of it, I'm not sure that really works out. And you look and, they've already ruled out a cornerback in Russell Douglas. They like the depth there. So I'm actually a little bit on the fence about who they should elevate for this game. So I'm going to kind of flip it over to you. I think that Anku, though, could be an upgrade over Quentin Jefferson, over a guy like Jordan Phillips. And I get it. The Bills brought those guys in for a reason after the trade deadline had passed, and those guys were released by their respective teams. Every time I've seen Anku play, though, he's really stepped up and looked the part.
I like the idea. I don't know if they'll actually execute that and bring them up, but if they do, this could be a game where if you believe in the kind of team mentality that an Austin Johnson has, you go to him and say, listen, this is a matchup specific thing. We really like you in most matchups, but we got to be able to defend the run. And that's just not the area of his game where I think that you're really excited about. So maybe keeping him down, keeping Quentin Jefferson down, and then bringing Phillips up along with. So now you could say, all right, Dwayne Carter and Eli Anku, we're gonna let you two roll, and then we have Jordan Phillips. If that's not working out, maybe we can kind of change things up and force him out into there. But again, this is going to be an Oliver Daquan Jones game. They got to be really effective in this game. And then at the edge, I wouldn't be surprised. Casey Toohill was in the red non-contact jersey today. Mm-hmm. He's listed as questionable for Sunday. Maybe they keep him back. And if Dewan Smoot is ready to go, and now you have a guy that you can kind of get in the mix also, and then maybe you don't feel like you need to elevate Anku. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but you'll get a good view of what they think about their run defenders on this defensive line with the roster decisions they make.
Yeah,
Anku's only been elevated one time, by the way, Zach.
Right. Yeah, by 4:00 tomorrow, we're going to have a good idea of what their game plan is and what they're thinking. And who knows, maybe it's just an elevation of a guy that they want to give a game day check to because they don't have a lot of players that they've ruled out already. And it just could be for the inactive list and adding players. So we'll see here in, less than 24 hours.
If you go by run defensive grade, let's pull up Pro Football Focus. Dwayne Carter on the season in 8 games. He is the lowest graded run defender amongst the regular contributors. Zion Logue and Branson Dean rated below him. But if you look up, Austin Johnson at about a 50, Anku grades out, according to PFF, in the 2 games he's played, a little bit higher. And then you have really not a lot of defensive linemen in the green, Ryan. The only defensive linemen in the green, according to PFF, are Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, and then Epinesa is just right outside of the green. So it hasn't been great. And listen, they're amongst the league worst against the run. Part of that is by design. Part of that is the scheme. But in these kinds of matchups now, you're going to face Baltimore in the playoffs, most likely. You're going to face Isaiah Pacheco, who's going to be back to full form by the time you probably face him. You better get used to coming up with an idea of how to stop the run. And maybe that looks a little bit more this week, like maybe some 4-3 looks, like a little bit more of it. Go with the extra linebacker. We will see.
Yeah, there's no time better than now to start figuring this out because of the potential teams you're going to meet come playoff time. And especially a team like the Ravens that have shown that they can out physical you earlier in the season. That'd be a good way to kind of figure out maybe some answers to that matchup. If you go against the Chiefs again, you're probably not going to tinker much with the way you've run your defense in the past against them. You've always hung in there, made for good games. You don't want to make it easier for Mahomes and company to pass, but some of these teams that they could run into in the Super Bowl, if they're able to get that far too, on the NFC side of the ball, they have some great backs on their rosters. So the Bills right now, this is, like I said, this is their last matchup against a Super Bowl contending team this season. So this is going to be their chance to put up or shut up, so to speak.
This looks like a return of Dalton Kincaid. Definitely Keon Coleman. Kincaid is questionable, but it has trended in a good direction. He was out of the red non-contact jersey today, which is a huge sign that he's progressing in a decent way. Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin, both listed as questionable. They were in red jerseys today also. So that's something to, as a matter of fact, let me bring up this injury report. So there's so many on there that I want to make sure I'm not.
Yeah, there are.
So we have questionable for the game. Grable, Hamlin, Kincaid, Morris, Rapp, Smoot, Spector, and Toohill. I think we probably end up seeing the two safeties play, but it'll be interesting to see if they don't activate a Micah Hyde or maybe even a Kareem Jackson in this spot if they want a little depth there. That could also play into the call-up game, but with Kincaid back, you figure they keep Davidson down. Again, they're pretty healthy on the offensive side of the ball. I wonder if we see anything happen with Virgil, if he ends up getting a roster spot. He's become kind of a special teams ace. And maybe before we transition to offense, Ryan, this is the number one DVOA special teams team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. And we've talked about it the last couple of weeks. The Bills are reeling. All eyes on Matthew Smiley this week.
Yeah, all eyes on Matthew Smiley. And I don't know. I've let not my emotions. I've let my opinion be known. I felt like this was a guy that I didn't think he necessarily deserved to come back this year with the way that they've been on special teams, with the way that they collapsed against Denver last year. A lot of the issues we've seen with the special teams unit as a whole, and the blocked punt, he can't be out there blocking. It was a very rare mistake by Reed Ferguson. But that unit has taken such a nosedive since he's taken over versus where they were when Sean McDermott first started as head coach, that someone joked in here about it being a Kyer Elam legacy game. This is a game where Matthew Smiley and this special teams unit needs to ball out and show out for this team. You don't see it very often. We've had some great games from Codrington where he's put the Bills in good field position. We had the moment with Tyler Bass making the 61-yard field goal against the Miami Dolphins. And truth be told, I do feel like Sam Martin has been a pretty solid punter all season long after last year having a kind of a down year. So there have been moments for this unit, but there's also been those glaring mistakes, the issues, the big returns that they've let up. They need to be sound on that in that phase of the game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, Zach of all trades throwing down the super chat. Sorry we didn't get that up earlier. Kyer Elam's legacy game as a Bill. And I don't know if it'll be a legacy game. It's crazy to think about. If you look at his performance in the playoffs, the opportunities that he's had the last couple of years, he's made plays. So I'm interested to see what he can do. All right, let's flip to the offensive side of the ball, and we'll get to the picks here in a minute. The Bills want to establish the run. It's going to be more challenging than initially expected. Levi Onwuzurike, if I'm saying his name properly, DJ Reader, both expected to play Onwuzurike. I think that's how you pronounce it. I remember covering him coming out in the draft a couple years ago. Listen, the Lions have prioritized getting big, bulky defensive linemen. Aleem McNeil also expected to play in this game. It's the route I've wanted the Bills to take. And we talked about Kobe Turner last week. This is another example of a front office that has prioritized the interior of their defensive line over the last couple of seasons. And listen, I was as high on Daquan Jones as anybody, and I still think that there's something left in the tank there. But you always got to be looking at the future. I think they've done that really well with their offensive line. You think about Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance, guys that they've mixed in with. Deion Dawkins was also a draft pick, so you could count all three of those guys as draft homegrown kind of players, and then they supplement that with free agent signings. You think about Mitch Morse early on, Connor McGovern, David Edwards. You got to do that on both sides of the ball at where Sean McDermott has been open about saying is the point of the spear, where games are oftentimes won, winning the line of scrimmage. I'm very concerned coming off of that Rams game. I think this is an even better defensive line with the Detroit Lions. And then what you have to deal with in the back seven is even more chaotic. Brian Branch is one of the pound-for-pound best players in the NFL. You're going to deal with him in this game. You have to be able to run the ball. And I guess where we start with this, can they? Can the Bills run the ball this week? And can the Bills defense keep them in a spot where they can still try to run the ball? Because that was the problem last week.
I know. You look at Reeder, expected to be back in this game. McNeil supposed to be back in this game. Two big defensive tackles on the interior for the Detroit Lions. And that's not to say the Bills shouldn't try to run. That's not to say they can't run to the outside. It's going to be very difficult. The Lions had been pretty banged up going into the last few weeks, but they're pretty healthy for this game. They've only ruled out one linebacker who suffered a concussion this week. Dan Campbell felt pretty confident that most guys are going to be able to go in this matchup against the Bills. So it's going to be a tall task to run the ball. And it really could make the Bills one-dimensional again. I know Sean McDermott wanted to see the Bills run more last week. Out of necessity, they had to really pass the ball a lot. You're hoping they try to stick with it a little bit longer. But if this turns into a matchup where they're just running into a brick wall, you need to let Josh Allen, again, put on that Superman cape and do what he does best.
I think Josh Allen could be a runner in this game. I think he can impact the game that way. One of the things that they could probably pull out that they haven't done a ton of, it hasn't been great when they have tried to do it this season, is the design runs for Josh Allen. We might see a couple of those in this game. And I think Keon Coleman returning is big. I'm actually even considering playing him over DJ Moore for the Chicago Bears this week in fantasy. I don't know why, but I have a sneaky feeling that Coleman coming back all this time to kind of take a break, he has a chance to have a big time performance in this game. And listen, I think they have a great secondary, but none of these cornerbacks, they play a ton of man coverage, more man coverage than anybody in the league. To me, that says opportunity for Coleman, who is a one-on-one contested catch kind of guy. The Bills are going to go jumbo a ton. I think Mac Hollins gets scaled back with his reps in this game, and you allow Keon Coleman to get out there, work maybe in some one-on-one man coverage opportunities. It's an Amari Cooper game. Don't get me off of that. But I'm talking about a potential couple of big plays in this game. I think Keon Coleman could be that.
And he absolutely could. And, one thing I have noticed watching Detroit Lions games, especially earlier on this year, Terrion Arnold, I believe he's a rookie for them out of Alabama. I think it's his first year, not his second year. He gets a lot of penalties thrown on him in terms of the physicality, getting there a little bit too early. So if you can attack him as well in the passing game, that might be a way to go about it. But Keon Coleman against the man defense, the jump ball, the boxing out ability, that could bode well for Buffalo. But like you said, they have some great players back there too. And Brian Branch is unbelievable safety, unbelievable player. One of my favorite players to watch in this league. So they're going to be tested against the run and against the pass on Sunday afternoon.
As far as the run game goes, I think James Cook obviously is a huge piece in this game to maybe get him going a little bit, but I will not be surprised if the Bills end up trying to run it 30 to 35 times, getting Ray Davis to be a part of this thing. And I don't think that that's going to necessarily take away from Ty Johnson, but I think Ty Johnson should be strictly in that third down role. Let Ray Davis try to get his pads low, run into the teeth of that defense a few times and see what you can't do, because they play so much man. And because, on first down, I was listening to, I believe it was the Ringer NFL show. Those guys do a great job as well. And they were talking about on first down, the Lions defense really likes to go big, which means the Bills, who also like to go big, is going to be like strength versus strength. And I think the Bills, if they could kind of force their will onto the Lions in those spots, that could maybe open up some things on second and short, second and manageable, third down, where I think Josh Allen has been really good this season. They got to sustain drives. You don't want to see, like in the first half against the Detroit Lions, 2 or 3 drives that end in a punt. You got to try to finish drives with points against this team, because you get down too much. As good as the Bills have been this year coming back, it's just not the spot you want to be at against this team on the road. So I think you want to really try to come out strong, have that defense get a takeaway in the first half, establish the run game, and hope that Josh Allen can really attack this secondary. Because listen, they're getting guys back, but they're still banged up. They don't have Aiden Hutchinson, which is about as
huge,
big of a loss as you can have in football at this point.
Yeah, Hutchinson goes along with the Watts and the Boses that I was mentioning earlier, those guys that can take over and be difference makers in games. So the fact that they'll be without him, and I know there's an outside chance he could be back for the Super Bowl, but the fact that the Bills don't have to face him in the regular season, that is a good thing for this O-line. They've done a great job protecting Josh Allen all year, and when Allen has time, he can make plays. But I have this sneaking suspicion he's going to have to make a lot of them on Sunday.
We got some breaking news, Ryan Talbot. Breaking news on the podcast. Got the kids after school. Wife had a little bit of a school event late. She's bringing the pizza home right now. Dinner is on the way. I don't think the kids are listening upstairs. I think they're watching the Christmas Vacation. Big family staple. But big news. Way to break it on the pod, Mrs. Parrino. Appreciate it. All right, prediction time here before we get out of town, Ryan. I have I'll start us off. I've been on the Lions all week. And I got to tell you, after being in the locker room over the course of the last Wednesday and Friday, so 2 days of the last 3, I've really swayed quite a bit. Like, I think the Bills have the opportunity to come out in this game and really make a statement defensively. I think that all the signs are there. And Jared Goff, stationary target. If the Bills get a fiery pass rush, they've not been getting after the quarterback, but if they're able to do that, force a turnover or two, I think that changes the complexion of the game. This is a proud group. They're going on the road. Like, this is a big-time statement game, 4:00 window. But as much as I wavered off of that Lions pick, I'm staying there. I'm going Lions 33-30. I'm giving them the slight advantage on the road. But I really like the Bills in this spot. And if the Bills end up winning this game 30-20, it wouldn't surprise me. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I'm going with the Lions. This is about as good of a team as there is in the league right now. And here's the other kicker for me and why I stayed on it. 10 days to prepare for this game. Dan Campbell and company have had 10 days to get healthy, 10 days to really dive into the Bills film. And I think they're going to be ready on both sides of the ball. And I think the Bills can meet the physicality, I'm going to want to wait and see it before I believe it. So 33-30, I'm going with the Lions. Sorry, Bills fans.
I've got the Bills losing this one.
Okay.
No,
all right. You had me. You
had
me, Talbot.
I'm sorry. As much as I want to see the Bills win, I have the Lions winning this one 35-24. I think that they can follow the blueprint of the Rams, which a lot of it was keeping Josh Allen and company off of the field. The 1-2 punch, they have it running back. They're going to lean on those guys if they keep picking up chunks of yards, keeping Allen and company off the field. It was 38.5 minutes last week for the Rams. Would not shock me if the Lions finish with a time of possession similar to that. Jared Goff he's the weak link on this Lions team. And I know that sounds weird saying because of the completion percentage, their record, he does a good job. But if they can somehow slow down the running game and make them throw the ball, that is the Bills' best chance at winning this game. Unfortunately, I need to see it to believe it as well. So it seems like the Shout podcast is leaning with the Detroit Lions. I see we have a special guest here, but we also have a lot of people, Matt, that want to know where that pizza is coming from.
That's a great question. And I don't know if she delivered the news in the chat here. I told her Pesci's or Matina's pizza were the two that I was hoping for. We oftentimes go to Picasso's. Franco's off in the mix. Oh, it's from Franco.
Franco's.
Okay, you completely didn't listen to the suggestion. Oh, by the way, do you want to give your prediction? Who's playing on Sunday? Do you know who the Bills are playing? Chiefs, not this week. I know you're a big Swiftie. They're playing the Lions.
Because it's Taylor Swift's birthday.
Today is Taylor Swift's birthday. All right, so who's going to win?
Wait,
Bills or Lions?
Bills.
Bills win? What's the final score?
Bills 98.
Bills 98.
And then
The Lions 19. Okay. Bit of a blowout there. Love you. I'll be up in a second, okay? All right.
I want you to be up now.
All right. I'm coming up now. All right. That'll do it for this episode of Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast. We're brought to you by Tops Friendly Markets. Get ready for Slider Sunday your way with King's Hawaiian at Tops. Every Sunday is an opportunity to enjoy delicious sliders made your way. And now you can win big while doing it. Vote for your favorite slider weekly for a chance to win tickets to the big game. Grab your favorite King's Hawaiian products from Tops and craft the ultimate sliders to make your Sunday even more special. Visit topsmarkets.com/slider Sunday. Say that'll do it.
That'll do it.
Say see you next time.
Dad, why
No,
do you
say
have those pipes?
The pipes, yeah, because this is a basement. Even though it's my studio, it's a basement. But say see you next time.
See you next time.
All right, take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.